If some of you need documents for this meeting, you should have it all in your emails and on your computers, but if you do need them, we printed out about 50 of each document, and they're down here on this table, so feel free to take agendas and financials and everything. Welcome to our business agenda meeting. Can we have the last people come in, please? At the beginning, I would just briefly like to explain the voting procedures for those of you who are not familiar. It's a little bit hard to see, but each of you should have received one of these emails yesterday already. And this vote is already open, so at any time now or later until tonight, after midnight, you can vote on the items that we discuss in this meeting. And in order to vote, you have the green button down there. You click the green button and it will lead you to the voting station. At the voting station, you need the two items that are in the middle of this email. You can see first is voter ID. This is only an example. It shows my email address there. your email address, the email address that you're registered with is the voter ID, and below that is the password. You insert these two at the voting station and it will open the screen for your vote. You can always make only one selection, yes, no, or abstain for every single item. And this will stay the same also tomorrow throughout the whole election. When we vote for candidates, you will also have the choice of yes, no, or abstention. If you vote abstention, the abstention doesn't count in any way. It only lowers the number of required votes for the candidate. As I said, tonight after midnight, the election will close, and tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, I will announce the results. We need to explain maybe briefly the system of majority. We have 84 registered voters for this election, and we have 120 competitions that are eligible to vote at this point. So out of 120, we need one more than half, meaning 61, in order to have a quorum. And for any decision to be taken, out of these 61, we need to have a majority. So if nobody abstains, we would need 31, 32, 30, 60 from the quorum, the half. If the quorum is 60, we will need 31 votes for somebody to get elected or for some item to be approved. If you abstain, that will lower this threshold. So instead of 60, we'll have 59, 58. If 10 people abstain, we will have only 50 required votes. And out of that half, you need at least half, one more than half, in order to have a positive vote or to win an election. So if there's only 50 votes left because 10 people abstain, then we will need 26 in order to have a positive vote. We can speak about this again if you have questions about this in the coffee break, but we would like to start now with the President's greeting and President's report, followed by my report, and then the Treasurer's report. And after that, we will go to the items on the agenda.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear members of the WFIMC. I gave this speech right before to Florian, and he said immediately, PPK serious as ever. So, yeah. But I'm sure, so please accept my apologies. I have this kind of mood of seriosity, but later on we will have the presentation by our treasurer, Jacques Marquis. We know his entertainment qualities, so the whole picture will be an outbalanced one. So, we have now spent 2 days in this wonderful city of Parma and have been able to have already inspiring talks, fruitful discussions of important issues outside and before the official part of this General Assembly has started. The General Assembly has taken a new shape, as I said yesterday or the 2 days before, on the initiative of Rob Hilberink, with a strong focus on substance and networking opportunities. I am particularly pleased that this Assembly has shown the largest turnout of members, associate members and guests that we have ever seen on such an occasion. 146 people present. Our statutes require an official report by the President, which is usually given at the beginning of the meeting. In light of the past 2 days and considering tomorrow's upcoming elections, which will see me running again for the position or for a second term as a President, I will try to limit my remarks to a very few observations. But instead of just talking about the last year, I will try to open a somewhat broader perspective. After all, tomorrow marks the end of a 3-year term, very special term of the current presidency and board. First, a few facts. Overall, WFIMC has strengthened his position. We owe this primarily to our Secretary General Florian Riem and, of course, his brilliant acting team comprising Sarah, Hannah, and Jin. Since Florian took over, we have balanced our budget again. Our treasurer, Jacques Marquis, will tell us more about this. The number of members is stable or even slightly increasing. A prudent communication strategy has given the association greater visibility. Our voice is being heard without huge sums of money flowing into advertisements in third-party media. Florian Riem will fill us in on all the details in his following report and tell us about the achievements. So that's the moment, please. Let's applaud Florian together with his team for this brilliant work. Personally, I'm rather self-critical and have to point out a few regrets and shortcomings. First, we still don't have a global press office. Not everybody believes in this necessity, but I still see a huge potential in this. We, with 100 members present around the globe, represent a huge power of communication, and we should use this in a better way. Second, we haven't been able to implement enough transversal projects. I also see there a big potential. We are 100 members with very different disciplines. If we would be able to develop projects that connect us in a transversal way, we can be even more powerful than we are, especially regarding commissions, because this is my other background, of new music. Third, we haven't actually made much progress with the denationalization. You remember, after the terrible aggression, terrible war by Russia against Ukraine, we started a kind of creating an awareness. How important is it still to communicate our candidates, our juries, connected to nations? I had to realize that music competitions are still closer to the Olympic idea of competing nations than I would like them to be. I was wrong here, but I will nevertheless continue to protect the young talents whenever and wherever from the potential threat of national instrumentalization. The WFIMC was founded in 1957. And I always like to remember this was only 12 years after the end of the Second World War, in the middle of Europe, where you have seen still a damaged, a destroyed Europe. The years of its existence have overlapped with the possibly longest period of peace and prosperity the world has ever seen, at least in those parts of the world where classical music, the music we believe in, was a crucial value of cultural life. This time seems to have passed. We have excluded one member, the important Tchaikovsky competition, because of his ruthless abuse for the purpose of propaganda. The Horowitz competition in Kiev, on the other hand, cannot take place because of the war. Our friends of the Rubinstein competition in Tel Aviv, I am sure, will face very great challenges for the upcoming edition. We constantly have to question our own position and scrutinize the language and attitude we are using when presenting ourselves to the young talents confiding in us by participating in our competitions. This does not only concern geopolitical conflicts, but also ecological sustainability, a balanced gender policy, as we always are reminded by Fiona Sinclair, and an overall concept perceiving the planet as a whole and leaving behind the baggage of colonialism. It is more important than ever to maintain an intensive dialogue on all levels and strengthen our global network. As you already know from previous years, I believe that dialogue and cooperation with the many different music scenes in Asia are particularly important. Japan is fortunately back with very promising talents after a few years of hardly being present at the competitions. South Korea still has one of the world's strongest music education systems. China will become a major force in the development of classical music, quite simply because of its size. Thanks to the networking of our Vice President CCA, we have been able to establish close contacts over the last 3 years and especially over the last months. It is also thanks to her that 2 important competitions, Ningbo and Xiamen, are back among our members. The Shanghai Conservatory has set up an international music competition research center and is working closely with us. A meeting with the president of the NCPA in Beijing, probably the most important concert hall in China, just 3 weeks ago, has opened up promising horizons for the entire WFIMC. This seems like the perfect moment to invite CCA to the stage so that she, as one of our 2 vice presidents, can share her view of the influence of WFIMC in Chinese musical life. I ask her to not talk longer than 3 minutes. Please.
Thank you, Peter Paul. I'm very happy today being able to report to all of you the bridges we have built in China with the support from every one of you over the past year. China is a new world to the classical music industry, and now the country has more than 60 symphony orchestras with around 100 concert halls. On the education of musical performing arts, we have 12 conservatories and over 100 music departments offering professional music training. Many of them provide education that is on an international level. I think many of you can discover that by seeing the performance of the Chinese young talented musicians in each of your competitions. After the international travel has been gradually resumed to normal, the presenter of our newly admitted member IPEA percussion competition, the Shanghai Conservatory of Music invited our board to Shanghai and to visit the IPEA competition finals last October. Some of our board members, together with Peter Paul and Florian, gave meaningful and insightful workshops and sharing sessions to the stakeholders who care and value that the WFIMC and high standards international competition have done to the industry in China. Our actions also encourage other colleagues in China. The Central Conservatory of Music in Beijing, another great and very important music institution in China, started to put enormous resources on renovating and supporting the competitions in our nation, such as the Ningbo International Vocal Competition and the Xiamen International Piano Competition. Also, on behalf of the competition members we have in China, please accept our thanks to all of you, particularly to the members of former board and our dearest former presidents, Mr. Glenn Guok and Mr. Didier Schnock, over the past 15 years for the care, efforts, leadership, and support you have given to the competitions in our nation. Please now applause for 2 of them. And I hope in the future we can work closer with our members and colleagues from China and different parts of the world, not only for presenting superb competitions and events, but also for promoting ideas we also share today, including the matters of gender equality, application of AI, intercultural collaboration, and environmental awareness to our young artists and next generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sisi. I think you were really on the point of 3 minutes. So we are deeply impressed by this commitment, and I'm totally sure that we can get out a lot for the WFMC out of this dialogue. Unfortunately, Elisabeth Kossig, the other vice president of the WFMC, cannot be here in person today for a sad reason. As we all know, she is also facing great challenges as there are efforts, serious efforts, to heavily cut the budget of the ARD competition, one of our most traditional and important competitions that we have since many decades. And she's unable to leave Munich right for that reason. This is a very worrying development. Classical music, and this brings me to this topic, classical music is under more pressure than ever to justify its value and public funding, especially in Europe. This means also that as music competitions, we have to make a strong case for the value of music education, because without music education, there are no competitions, and the necessity of career prospects in musical life, which are values that are indispensable for a society as a whole. Some of us occasionally have doubts about the expedience of music competitions. I am certainly one of them. But there is no denying that they are an important part of musical life. We only need to look at the record numbers of applications we are receiving now, again after the pandemic. We must not be afraid to look at the bright, but also at the dark side of this system again and again. As long as we, as the WFMC, truly represent its values, constantly strive for improvement, and develop ingenious concepts corresponding the spirit of our time, our actions will be meaningful. This will further allow us to participate in shaping an international music life that enhances the progress of truly important, diverse, and unique artistic voices. A big and heartfelt thank you to the board. We had a lively exchange. Not all decisions were unanimous. Some of the board members have a problem with my always running too fast. I apologize. But in the end, the good of the WFMC was always put first. Thank you for the mutual trust, and thank you to all of you, members of the WFMC, for your confidence in our work. Despite the major challenges for international cultural and musical life, I think it has been a good 3 years for the WFMC. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Peter Paul. It feels a little bit funny to have this session in the middle of the conference, but I think it's great that we've started this year with these 2 days of marketing, and we sort of dived straight into so many topics. So I would also say a big thank you to Rob Hilbering, who has been working really hard for the past 2 days. Maybe you can give him an applause. In this report, I would like to speak about a few general issues, and then we will have all the separate points in the agenda later for the statute changes, for the new members, and a few other issues. First of all, I would like to mention some changes in personnel. You noticed that our long-term colleague Maria-Lena Petas was replaced last year. She's not with us anymore. She was replaced by Päivi Loponen Kyrönsepe, excuse me. She would have been here with us this time. She was very interested in coming to the conference, but the Miriam Hellin competition is taking place this week, right now as we speak, for the first time in 5 years. So she won't be with us, but she will be joining us next year, I hope. Our long-term friend Karendra de Vroop has left the UNISA competition a few weeks ago, and he has been replaced by Thomas Pooley, a piano professor at UNISA. In our latest newsletter, you have a little biography about him, and we will publish an interview with Karendra in a few weeks' time. Already last October, Arthur van der Drift has left the Tromp competition in Eindhoven for a job with the Rotterdam Philharmonic. The Tromp competition will this year be managed by Rob Hilberink of Liszt Utrecht, and the future at the moment is a little bit unclear. We hope for the best, and we hope that this will continue well into the future. Ivan van Kalmthout of the IVC in 's-Hertogenbosch has also taken on a new job. He is now the director of the Opera São Carlos in Lisbon. And he has been followed by the countertenor Andrew Watts, who is very interested in hosting a regional meeting in Hertogenbosch this fall. We'll be talking about this later on. And one last person in Kobe, Japan, Kuniko Nagafuku, has left the office of the Kobe Flute Competition and has been followed by Chihiro Nishioka. 3 years ago, we elected a new president and board just a few kilometers away from here at the Borciani competition in Reggio Emilia. I remember very well sitting in the beautiful Teatro Valli gilded boardroom at our first hybrid General Assembly, with everyone doing COVID tests every morning, wearing masks most of the time, and we were all thinking, oh, in 3 years from now, we'll be back here in Italy, we'll be just next door in Parma. These 3 years have passed incredibly quickly, but looking back, it's amazing how many things have happened since then, how much the world has changed during these 3 years. During this past term of the board, we have held general assemblies in Bydgoszcz, in Hamamatsu, one online. We have held a regional meeting in Pretoria, South Africa. We have held the Horowitz competition in Geneva. We worked with several festivals in France, Korea, China, and Japan. And we have enlarged our network greatly and initiated new cooperations in Asia. The Secretariat has greatly strengthened its PR and marketing activities. Our monthly newsletters are now read by 2,000 people. Our Instagram account now has close to 3,000 followers and has featured over 900 posts and many more stories. Our website now has artist pages for all of the Federation's winners of the past 4 years. I believe we're at 720 artists right now that are represented on our website. Our WFIMC yearbook has grown to a 170-page encyclopedia and has become a very strong feature of the Federation, both for members, for students, teachers, and audiences. I think you all will be thinking now, yes, but why did you have to send it with FedEx? So many of you had to pay taxes in order to receive our yearbook, and we apologize for that inconvenience. Somehow, we've been always a bit unlucky with the yearbook, and in 2021, I believe, it was the last time we printed in the Netherlands, a whole pallet full of yearbooks was lost on some container ship being shipped to Asia and to the United States. Nobody got their yearbook, so we decided to print elsewhere. We've been printing in South Korea for the last few years, and we've experimented with various ways of sending these yearbooks around. Last year, we sent them sometimes with airmail, and it took months for them to arrive. This year, we sent them with Federal Express because we thought we want you to have them as soon as possible. But then many people didn't even get them because they didn't know why they would have to pay, even though it was not much money, but why would they have to pay for the package to arrive? So now that we've been trying all the various ways, we will ask you before we send out our next one, and you can choose if you want to have them sent via express or via snail mail, or if you want to pick them up at the General Assembly later on during the year. Our group of associate members has grown steadily this year. We now have 19 associate members all over the world, an additional network of resources and support, and of course, an additional source of revenue for the Federation. Revenue is, of course, a subject for Jacques, but I also want to mention that the Secretariat has managed to finish all our activities with the balanced budget for the last 5 years, which is all the more important as we now have more staff, higher costs, inflation, but we are still asking the same membership fee than more than 20 years ago. If you think back a bit further, if you remember our General Assembly in Norrköping in 2019, the last General Assembly before the pandemic, it's quite extraordinary how the Federation has changed in these 5 years. In 2019, we had nothing but live meetings. The board had never met online before. All votes were held with paper cards. We had hours and hours of discussions on internal issues and statutes, on all kinds of internal topics. For some, and also for me, sometimes it's sad to see these opportunities for discussion gone, those in-depth conversations in the plenum no longer happening the same way. But at the same time, we now have the opportunity to cover a much wider range of discussions. We have never had as many speakers and panelists as this year here in Parma. We have never had a greater interest and so many people taking part in the live conferences, while at the same time, many more are watching our live stream online. Back in 2019, we spent substantial amounts of money on advertising in the BBC magazine, Gramophone, Pianist, International Arts Manager, and a few others. The Federation was looking to create a network in the wider music industry, a word that I personally do not really appreciate well. And we were looking to provide additional benefits for our members through these collaborations. Today, we may not offer you a reduced rate at Musical America or a subscription at Gramophone. We don't invest in these companies. We don't invest in outside media, in paper magazines anymore. Our marketing experiences have come to zero. Instead, we believe that we have a large enough network, a large enough media presence to really focus on ourselves, on our greatest capital, our member competitions, and more importantly, on our artists. And I'm not talking about the big stars, the Yunchan Lims and the Bruce Lius, even though these are equally important for us and help us raise our profile. I'm talking about the hundreds of laureates, the winners we need to promote and support in all our member competitions. The past years have helped us a lot to get to know a lot of our members better. Peter Paul and I have visited a great many of your competitions in order to learn more about you, to listen to your stories, to involve you in our activities, to feature you in our media, and to give you a bigger presence in the Federation. The past 3 years have not always been easy, but I think what I need to mention, and where I really want to thank our President Peter Paul Keinrath for his great engagement in the Federation, for his hard work and great motivation. We have constantly discussed and worked on the role of the Federation. We wanted our efforts to be meaningful. We wanted to try and stay on the pulse of time, to keep up with and balance political, ethical and gender issues. We wanted to promote the importance of artistic excellence among our music competitions in the face of fake and online competitions, and in the face of some upstart competitions trying to gain importance with huge budgets and prize money that none of us can afford. It has always been our aim to identify and try out new opportunities, and I think we will continue with these efforts in the future. We have to, if we want to stay competitive, if we want to continue to be heard, if we want the Federation to be meaningful. We have to continue to define the role of the World Federation. I would like to say a big thank you to all of you who have supported our work, but of course, especially the members of our board and our president. And I look forward to meet the new board and new president tomorrow to continue our work, to face new challenges, and search for new opportunities in order to make them opportunities for you and provide more value for you, our members. Thank you. Can we have the big screen, please? Not now. Okay. Well, let's do the minutes afterwards. Let's oh no, here it is. Sorry. Sorry. This is the business agenda, yes. I'm sorry. Let's do the dollars. Okay.
I did this slide in Bolzano a few years ago talking about private funding, and I spoke for 45 minutes about how you can expand your funding as an organization and competition. And Eugenius came after that, said, I don't need the money, I'm fully supported by the state. And I said, okay, I did that for nothing then. Okay, then as usual, I assume that you read the report. Thank you, Didier. And the big thing for this year, by far, when you think that our usual operations is $400,000 Swiss francs per year, is look at the budget compare in 2023 at 840. And it's huge because suddenly we double the activities of the World Federation in 1 year, which is quite impressive. And that means also that they fundraise for that kind of money because we have a balanced budget. And Florian is a king of balancing budget within $100 or Swiss francs. And this is pretty impressive considering the number of staff there is and having all the pressure in the world to make this competition, the Kyiv Geneva competition, successful. Then I think this is I cannot stress more how I think it's a very good thing for the Federation to have done that in that year. You have the details in the report, naturally. I just talked about this. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them, but I will address all of this after that. The 2025 budget is pretty much the same, and you'll see that in the next slides that we're pretty consistent on the budget. We may have an increase with Geneva, and this will be a result of, naturally, the efforts and the increase of awareness of the World Fed in Geneva. The membership, we'll see that we expect 124. We always at 120-ish. We lose some, we win some. And we will talk later on about junior competition. I already said that we'll be part of this. And I think it's a good way to expand the revenues. Now we'll look at 4 different slides. And when Peter Paul decided to do 3 years, I will do 9 years, because this is my last treasury report. It's been 9 years. Now you have to say, oh, thank you. And I love the enthusiasm here. And it's after lunch, everybody's sleeping. And then we'll look at the surplus and loss and capital owned, the memberships and the revenue. When Florian came, and if you look at that, we had 2 important deficits there. And in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, a surplus, which is great, because balancing, as you know, it's a challenge for everybody. And then that's also a success for the team in place. The capital owned, as you know, were pretty high because years ago, then 2016, we decided to put some money to hire a full-time Secretary General. And after that, we used some capital money there. But since then we have, the capital owned is still at 300,000 Swiss francs that we have in the bank. And it's there for the rainy days. Ideally, it will increase. And the only way to increase this is to have surpluses. We'll talk about this. Membership, good year, bad year. You can see in the bottom the number of new members that we can have, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. But we also have people leaving. In 2017, we did what I call a clean slate. There was so many competitions who were not paying, and they have not paid for many, many years, and we decided to take the loss that year. And even though we took the loss, we didn't make a deficit. That was great. Then that was important to restart fresh when Florian came. Then 120 membership is still pretty much what we are. If we can increase, but I think also increase other sources of revenue, it will be a great thing. Because when you look at the revenues, you see how important is still the membership in all this. Cannot believe that we've been for 20 years at the same amount of money to give for the World Fed, but it's still a very, very important part of the World Fed. What I like a lot about this slide is the fact that we're increasing the number of columns. They are still small, but we have associate members, sponsorship, advertising, and all of this will reduce the risk about losing memberships. And I think this is a key thing. And I think that Florian and his team is working and having that in mind all the time. Then if we can reduce the risk on membership and increase membership, then all this can create a little surplus and, once again, better for the rainy days. Highlights from 16 to 23. If you remember, we had the Swiss banker before me who was doing the financials, and my first goal was really to be more transparent. And I look recently in all the reports before my time, and I could not understand them. And then I really worked very much on doing a report that you have all read, that is the most transparent that we can understand and that you can rely on. I talked about the clean slate. We have 2 Secretary General and 2 President, and it went well. So many board meetings and COVID meetings and all that. We did so many bylaws revision, and we'll talk about this later on. Like I said before, and once again, super important, the new sources of revenue for the World Fed. I think there's more. We always have to push the boundaries and to try to find new ways for us in Geneva to see what we can do for increasing those. Naturally, once again, the Kyiv competition was a highlight, and I think a fantastic gesture of the World Fed through a member. And once again, Sarah, Hannah, and Jin, and Florian, thank you again. And so much pressure to have a financial statement or financial report that it's fun. Then I was trying to get keywords in my mind over the last 9 years about what has been the work in the treasurer. And some of them, the words that you will see, had an impact on financials. Some of them not. Yeah. I don't know if you remember that one. Uh-huh. Thank you all. I'll answer a question if you want. Questions? Remarks, comments? Mr. Romesh. For the next treasurer, by the way, I have all my notes that I will very nicely give away before the end of this journey.
Well,
Yes, sir.
Jacques, I've looked at looked at the figures. If I'm not mistaken, if we take out the year 2022, because it was the Horowitz competition that was part in our budget, and therefore the overall cash position was 500,000. But if I take 2021 and compare the balance sheet of 2023 with 2021, which then would be just a normal continuation of the operation, I end up with, not a very serious, but with a deficit of 56,000 euros that the cash position of the World Federation has been decreased. Now, that is nothing to worry about immediately, but I think looking at the way expenses are going, I just wonder, the budget was balanced, but in effect, it has consumed 56,000 of the cash position of the Federation. And isn't that a risk that we are seeing also for the future? Because expenses are going up. I don't know whether you have not shown us how much the income went up, how much the expenses went up, whether the expenses with highly qualified people, the salaries increase every year. Can we afford to keep the fees the same way, or on the same level that it has been for many years, and costs increasing all the time?
Are you suggesting to increase the fees?
Hold on, please. If the income doesn't increase. Now, you have not shown us how much the income, let's say, for advertising has increased. Maybe it overcompensated the cost increases. I've not seen anything in that, in your presentation showing us.
If you want an answer, you have like 6 questions in this. Yeah. Can I begin?
Yeah, it's only one figure. It's 56,000.
Okay.
Yes.
First, we have a balanced budget in the last 5 years, and the capital owned is still at almost the same place, and we know the reason why it went down, then I'm not worried. Cash flow at the end of the year of $56,000 depends on if you have receivables or payable at the end of the year. It can change a lot, especially in a year that the Kyiv competition, the budget was so high that they may have had an invoice of $25,000 and that we don't know, and they paid afterwards. Then, that's the first thing regarding cash flow. For me, when I look at the work of the team over the last few years, yes, inflation, all expenses, I don't know for your competition, but for us, it's been increasing like crazy. Salary, it's been increasing crazy. And increasing the salary of the people and also having more expenses is normal. And once again, they balance the budget. Bravo for that. Because they don't have a lot of ways of raising money. And yes, you can see in the graphic, the increase in advertising. You can see some decrease in advertising, increase in other stuff in the associate members, but there's more revenues coming from other sources. And once again, they did a balanced budget. When you look at 24, 25, the plan is to do a balanced budget. And Florian, in the last 5 years or 6 years that we've been working together, we've been on the same track every 2 months, talking about where you're going, what is going to happen, and we're going to balance the budget, and we're agreeing like 6 times a year, and we got this done. Then I'm not worried about the cash flow position, and I'm not worried about the potential fail down of this. I think it's good that we keep, unless you want to increase the cotization at 3,000 Swiss francs, but I don't think it's a good idea at this point. I think that the administration has proved that they can manage increase in inflation, increase in salary, which were normal stuff to do. Thank you. Anything else? The floor is yours.
Can we show us now the minutes from last GA? Everybody got this by email, of course. Now this is the agenda, but we need the minutes. That's the photo. Yeah. Maybe we can do it very easily. Everybody read the minutes. Are there some comments, amendments, or can we approve it like this afterwards when you are entering to the email and to the link that we have sent? Any questions?
These minutes are traditionally more a report of the General Assembly, because we, at this General Assembly, we did not make any huge decisions.
Yeah. So if there are no questions, no comments, then we leave it like this, and then afterwards you can find it in all the points and topics that they are to be approved or not.
Yes, you will be voting on this online as well. So if you do have questions on the minutes, please do not hesitate to ask.
Okay, wonderful. Then let's go on to the point 5. Proposal and debate, junior and youth competitions. Florian had prepared something.
I would just like to say a few general words about this. We have spoken in the board about many issues, about ways to stabilize the federation in the face of these uncertain times, whether we should continue the same way, whether we should enlarge the number of competitions, whether we should take on other kinds of instruments, ethical instruments, whether we should deal with national competitions. But we've also spoken about youth and junior competitions. And we've come to the conviction that it would be good for us, as already several members have their own junior competitions, to find a way to include junior competitions into the federation. There is a important organization that many of you know, MC, the European Music Competitions Youth. That is an organization of 40, 50 youth competitions, not only international, but also national competitions. And if you have a closer look at them, you will see that this kind of competition has no way of anyhow being in line with our statutes, our regulations that could somehow be unified with our group of members. So we've come to the conclusion that if we do include junior competitions, they have to adhere to the same statutes, they have to abide by the same rules. There may be certain points where we have to show flexibility because it's not at the professional artist level yet. There may be certain points that we have to take into consideration. But in general, the board believes that the federation is ready to take on junior competitions, as long as they have the same the same conditions as full members, as long as they pay the same membership fee, and as long as they abide by the rules. So we have put this in a set of rules, and you have seen these. I have now, to make it easier, I have now included these in the statute changes. That is our next point. And we will go through every single statute change one by one, and we'll also get to the junior and youth competition ones. But it would be nice maybe to have 2 or 3 comments from the people that were involved in this discussion to tell their thoughts and why they think that it would be wise to take on junior competitions. Who would like to start?
I was really happy that we had this discussion because I feel it can be an asset for us as competitions, because then we have a better understanding of the pipeline, what is coming, and then we can build relationships with important institutions that are in that pipeline and meet people that can help us get good participants in the future. So I'm really in favor of this idea.
Maybe we should mention that we have already some members that are running a youth competition. And so also for them, it would be maybe an advantage to join also with a part of the junior competition linked to them, our own federation, and not to be forced to live in 2 different planets. This was also one of the reasons.
So in short, rules and regulations of any junior competition seeking membership should be informed by the statutes for regular members. Exceptions can be made if the General Assembly approves them on a case-by-case basis. In any case, admission should only be made following a thorough review by the Federation, by the board, taking into account the different prerequisites for that particular competition. There are junior competitions that have very different structures, different age limits, different shares of being international and national, different sizes of juries, different repertoire, different regulations. But we believe that there are a number of excellent junior competitions, among them the ones of our members, that are really worth taking into the federation. So right now we have 7 separate junior competitions. These are the Cleveland International Piano Competition for Young Artists, the International Competition for Young Pianists in memory of Vladimir Horowitz, which is part of the Horowitz competition. We have the International Piano Competition of Orléans for Youth, Brin d'Herbe. We have the Santa Cecilia International Piano Competition that has a youth category in Porto. We have the Tibor Junior Competition in Sion, the Clyburn Junior in Fort Worth, and the International, Dallas, I'm sorry. Yes, the International Franz Liszt Competition for Young Pianists in Weimar, and the Louis Spohr Competition for Young Violinists. On top of that, there is also the Vilnius International Music Competitions that have some categories that, because of the age span, sort of cover part of the junior category. The same concerns the Zhuhai International Mozart Competition for Young Musicians. They have 3 categories, and there is a professional category, but there's also a junior category. So our proposal is, once we later on look through the statute changes, our proposal is to, in the future, make junior competitions part of the federation, to give our members the opportunity to include their junior competition without a separate application. We have looked through all of them, and the board believes that these junior competitions are worthy to be taken into the federation. And for any new competition, new junior competition, interested to join the federation, they would have the opportunity to apply and then be approved by you at the next General Assembly in 2025. So if I repeat, we don't have a separate point for this. This is part of the statute changes if you later on approve the change of statutes. This means that from next year, new junior competition can be accepted, and the existing junior competitions of our members can be part of the federation. We have decided to offer our own junior competition the same deal as those competitions who have those organizations that have several competitions. For example, if you take Rob Hilberink, he is running the List Utrecht and the Rotterdam International Competition. Rob is kind enough to pay 2 annual fees, 2 membership fees, and that means that these competitions are being treated entirely separate. They have a separate entry in our yearbook on our homepage, and they have the same weight, they get the same treatment, the same marketing opportunities, the same coverage in our social media. There's other members who have several competitions under one hat. They are not able to pay 2 fees, and these members have only 1 entry in the yearbook, 1 entry on the website. And it will be the same for the junior competitions. If the Clyburn competition, the Clyburn Junior wants to be a member, it can be either listed together with the Clyburn competition, or it can receive a separate entry, and then it has to pay a separate fee, annual fee. That annual fee will not be 100% of the main fee. It will receive a 50% discount.
It's a lot of mathematics today. There's a question from the floor.
Andrew Ferris, Chopin Society of Hong Kong. Question: what is the definition of a junior competition? Does it depend completely on age? Because, for example, the Chopin Society of Hong Kong has a maximum age. The Hong Kong International Piano Competition, okay, has a maximum age, but doesn't have a minimum age. So what stops us from being a junior competition? What is the definition that the World Federation is using to classify something junior?
Our member competitions deal with professional musicians with professional music competitions on a professional artist level.
What's the definition of a professional musician? If you're a student, are you a professional musician?
A student you have to define that better. A student, is the student 7 years old? Is the student 25 years old? On what level is he performing?
So thank you. You're telling me there is an age component into that. You just told me that what makes a 7-year-old not be a professional and therefore part of a junior. Now, the question again is there an age limit in junior competition? Yes or no? Very simple.
No.
There's no age limit.
Every junior competition, I said that before, every junior competition has their own age regulations. And obviously every junior competition has an age limit. You cannot have a pianist at age 45 being in a junior competition. So, but there's different kind of junior competitions, some that will include younger children up to maybe middle school age. Some will include high school students or university students. Every one of them is different. And if you look at them, you see all these different age regulations, and we cannot, as a federation, set that regulation as a rule because they're also different. So, which is why I have said that we will look at each competition separately. We see, does it make sense for us to accept that competition because we think it's working well, because it matches our statutes. It does not do any strange things on the side. If so, if we check it, if the board looks at that competition and decides it complies with our statutes, then yes, we can accept it.
Correct me if I'm wrong. In other words, you're telling me that the World Federation has absolutely no definition of what is a junior competition except the definition that we are going to give, meaning we, the World Federation, looking at the rules and regulations of somebody that comes and says, good morning, I'm a junior competition. So in other words, there is no definition for a junior competition. There isn't.
So looking back, so I think even we had this in statutes that they were revised. We have in our, that you can find in the handbook, we have an age limit. And we have all the single members, we have minimum ages. Busoni has, for example, 16. And this is to try to open this door in a more conscious way to the real junior competition that they themselves, defining themselves as junior competition. Yeah. But we have a lot of members here sitting that they have age minimum.
You know, I don't have any problem that individual junior competitions, they can self-define. Of course, who are we to tell them what is their definition? The question is what our definition? And if you tell me that our definition is going to be their definition, except that we're going to look at it, effectively we say we don't have any definition, we will simply take on other people's definition, examine them, and perhaps say yes or perhaps say no. Well, that's my understanding. I'm not saying this is good or bad. I want to understand.
If they present themselves to us to apply for becoming a member as a junior competition with these changes of statutes, we can start the process of analyzing and the discussion in the board and the presentation to you at the GA, to the entire membership for approval or not. That's the meaning of all this.
Thank you.
Other questions from the floor?
So I'm sorry, I'm Annabella Levin Freris. I'm from Hong Kong International Piano Competition. I'm Andrew's wife, and I'm now completely confused. What are we? We don't have a minimum age, and I never say when we accept our candidates. I never ask them, are they professional? We tell the people, because we do get a lot of applications before they know exactly what is the program they have to present and what they will have to go through, okay? Because we have in China is colossal amount, okay, of students of music, and in our case of piano, and some of them are fantastic, okay? Like everywhere, I imagine, just the numbers in China are huge, so therefore the very talented children are in proportion, and they are also very big. And I want to know now, what are we? Of course, when they see the program, there are some that can play that repertoire, but I don't know where we are. I mean, what is the...
Yeah, you should not be lost. You are avant-garde. You are already ahead. You have a competition where you can accept all ages, and we now apply, and we are going to start to define this more properly, but you should not be lost. There is no problem at all. But looking also to your laureates, I see that your juries, they preferred, even though you had the possibility to admit very young people, usually participating in junior competitions, but participating at your competition, they are not among the laureates. That means something. Maybe they are not that professional as the other.
No, sorry. They will participate. Our jury doesn't select anybody
but if you
on
look
the
to the
basis of how old they are.
But if I am looking to your laureates that you have,
yes,
I didn't see that young laureates.
I'm sorry. What if I have my laureates are all near 30? Then you will say, oh, sorry, so you only like the very old ones. No, it might be that just happened that during our competition, the very good ones, we have only one rule in our competition, okay, for the jury, quality, okay? It cannot be whether it is a girl, a boy, how old, where they are from, nothing. How are they in terms, that is what is a competition. Otherwise, I think we are in the wrong place.
No, but
and we
that's-
don't understand about the World Federation. Because I can tell you, I'm very aware, familiar, and participated in a lot of junior competitions. Okay, and we entered a very special, very careful, very dangerous field here. And then the World Federation might redefine itself, and then we belong to a federation that is not what we think we belong to.
No, there's a big misunderstanding. The federation really, it's precisely that what you have said. There is only quality, and every single member is acting according only quality. The only difference between you and the majority of here, that majority has an age minimum, and now we are opening this door to admit also junior competitions. That's the only
junior?
difference.
What
but
is
let's
the maximum?
but let's give the word now to Jacques Marquis from the Claiborne. He was asking.
Then, as you know, we're doing both. We're doing the Claiborne professional competition and the junior. For me, it's pretty simple. We are launching careers for the professional competition. For the juniors, we are helping them to fine-tune their art through a competition. Are we booking them for concerts after? No. If you have a 13 years old winner at your competition, good luck for booking him a tour. Unless Mama is following, and this is not a professional tour, this is not something that, if your goal at the end of the day is launching careers, I call it a professional competition, and this is what we do here. A junior is a process of learning through, when they're young, through this world of learning through a competition about music, about art, and this is what we try to give them and open all the doors and the ideas of the world. But we don't book them, we don't treat them as professional, we treat them as young people learning in a learning process.
So they cannot apply, like they were saying, that we will accept the junior competitions exactly under the same terms as the competitions, all of us, okay, represented here, okay? I think also I would like to know, what is junior competition? Up to what age is junior, okay? I want to know that, because if we don't understand exactly the terms we are handling, it's very difficult. In any field, okay, it's very difficult to define issues. I was going to tell you one thing, that it could be considered, I imagine, that are junior competitions that are linked to one of the competitions members of the federation, okay? And you are telling me that you have a junior section of the competition that will be aiming at guiding your little ones, okay, towards becoming, I don't agree with that, because that would be to be a school or some kind of academy. And as far as I understand, the World Federation, that is not our mission. Okay?
I would like to invite you to read through our statutes, because it's very clear what they say. The statutes say, in order to qualify for admission as a member of the federation and to remain an active member in good standing, a member competition must be, and then you have a long list of requirements that a competition has to be. And we are proposing now to amend this and to look at a potential junior competition applicant, looking at with these requirements that we tell our adult, our professional competitions, and see how much they fulfill these rules. And then there are a couple of points that obviously they cannot match. They cannot be an international music competition of musical performance on a professional level, but they can aim to bring these young artists to a professional level.
What does it mean, professional? I'm sorry.
In the articles that we propose to you in the amendments to the statutes, we say junior competitions may set their own age limits. Different age groups with different requirements may be chosen. A competition age category which includes participants with the age of more than 18 will not be considered a junior member.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think I was thinking that you were proposing a change of these regulations, right? And I thought that this is open to discussion.
We are not changing, we are adding something, but
Okay,
we have
when
also
it's a change.
Yeah. We have
Adding or subtracting is changing, right? I'm sorry. I think we are entering into a very dangerous part here, in the sense that it might change completely what is the role and the very important role of the World Federation of International Music Competitions. Okay.
Let's see if there are others. Yeah, there is another comment.
Artur Szklen, Chopin Institute, Chopin Competition. I think that we've got two issues here. One, it could be just wording, because if we contradict professional or junior, I think that there can be a kind of a confusion, because when we think about the federation, it's always professional. So I would think maybe about wording that suggests that we are thinking about the professional level according to the age. So a high level according to the age of the competition, of the section anyway. So that's something that I understand that worries maybe some of the members. But on the other hand, I totally agree that our definition shouldn't be narrowed. Because if we add any more definition of what it means, the youth competition or junior competition, then we will be closing the doors that we just want to open. You know, there is a word of competitions, and everybody knows that there are adult competitions and junior competitions. And what we should look at is not how to define them. If we want to open the doors to all of them, we should think about the criteria of judging them. So, and you support that, saying that we will be actually looking at the artistic level of this competition, also these junior ones, and because we need new members, so I totally agree that we should do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Artur. Are there other concerns or comments? Yes, we have here our new member from Finland, third row. No, we need, because they are not listening then.
Yes, I'm Anneli Raan from Finland, from the Ilmari Hannikainen Piano Chamber Music Competition. Now, my question is simple, there is no problem. We have an appendix to our competition, which is from 10 to 18. It's a junior competition. It is played just before the international part. But it's in the same catalog, it's under the same auspices. It looks like it's part of the WFIMC approved competition. So is that a problem, or we could inform you at least?
Maybe there's a problem that you call it now the other one international, so I assume that the other one is national. That would be a problem, because we are a federation of international music competitions.
Right.
So we are not opening the door to national projects.
Okay. So we don't even inform you? Okay.
Better.
Great. Thank you.
Are there other concerns, questions, recommendations, suggestions? Because it's an important topic.
I think it's also important to remember that some of our members who have their own youth or junior competitions, they keep them on the same website as the main competition. And we've always been discussing in the past with them, should this be part of the membership can this be separated or not? And it's been a very tricky subject because some members have used the World Federation logo for their junior competition already. And this regulation, this statute change would make this perfectly normal and would put all these problems in order.
There's two more questions. Didier, and no, first, it's difficult to see.
Kristin from Norway, Trondheim International Chamber Music Competition. I was just wondering if the board discussed how to serve new members with the junior competitions, because obviously the nature of the two kinds of competition is a bit different. And what kind of member service do you see will appear that is not already present?
We can say that now, if this would be approved tomorrow or by today, then we have only youth competitions admitted, guided already by our full members. And we have one more year time to discuss with the new board, maybe such kind of services or assistance, and to guide them before there will be no admission of any other junior competition before the next GA. So there will be a first step inside the board and the second one together with all of you by the next GA.
And then depending on the interest and the number of potential junior members, we would then create separate sections in the website. So they would not be completely, they would always be with separate colors or separated somehow from the main members. We would not all mix all of them together.
Didier.
Yes, I think you just answered my question. Is it the junior competition will be a new kind of membership? Like we have a regular member, we have associate member, and we have junior competition members, or is it something else?
It will be a separate kind of member, but it will have the same conditions, it will pay the same money, it will have the same voting rights as a full member.
Yeah, but a clear distinction between the two kinds of competitions.
Absolutely. Yeah, we cannot have a young junior competition next to a senior competition.
But the difference is associate member doesn't have right of vote. This, they have full membership. If there are no any other questions, then we can go on. It's also a very articulated point now, point 6, where we find again this point, but also a wider picture, proposal and debate, statute changes and updates.
I hope this is big enough on the big screen. It's a little bit hard to read. I'll try and make it even bigger.
We have also printed versions here on this table, as said before. So if anybody would like to have this in paper.
I would like to go through these proposed statute changes with you one by one. If you would like to make changes to the proposal, we can do this right now, and we can then make this part of the vote. So what we go through right now, you will then approve with the electronic vote after this session.
I think we would have or now coffee break, or we run fast. Running fast on a topic like this is maybe a bit dangerous. So maybe we should, I don't know, Florian. Should we have the coffee break as foreseen and then going back?
Sure. Let's have a coffee break.
Coffee break.
Wrong.
We would like to propose you that we anticipate one point. It's the new members and new disciplines, suspensions and exclusions. So we have all the time left for the maybe tricky discussion, or maybe smoothful discussion, or no discussion, I don't know, about the statute changes and updates. But it's very important that that we are not in a rush, because we already got some comments and everybody feels this as very important and an important moment for the Federation. So I would like to ask Florian to start with point 8, new members, new disciplines, suspensions, exclusions.
I will just briefly go through the list, and then you have, of course, in the online form, the option of saying yes or no. If you would like to make a comment on one of these proposed competitions, you're absolutely welcome to. It'd be good to hear any inside information that you may have. The first one is the International Krzysztof Penderecki Cello Competition. Penderecki is, of course, a very big name in Poland. And this cello competition has a very high profile, has had a very profile in the past, has some great juries, is run by the Penderecki Academy, and was last held in 2023. I don't know if any of our Polish colleagues would like to comment. No? If so, I would say from the perspective of the board, there is no problem with this competition. It is on a very high international level, and it complies with our statutes. Next is the New Orleans International Piano Competition in Louisiana. It has been held already 15 times and is being run by the Musical Arts Society of New Orleans. It does have a few issues that it tries to resolve, and we have been in close contact with them. One of these issues is the jury being a little bit small. The other one is that it does not have an orchestral final. It does, however, have an orchestra showcase with the Louisiana Philharmonic, so 3 of the winners get to play with the Louisiana Philharmonic after the award ceremony, the next day or the next week. And they are aware of this problem, and they're aiming to change this at the next competition. We talked with a few of our American friends, and they were all for it, and we believe this is a worthy organization to be supported. Any comments? Thank you. This competition you will not find on the voting form. We had, Peter Paul Keinrad and I had a Zoom with the director of the Premio Mauro Paolo Monopoli. And we have decided that there are issues with this competition, and we will not put it up for a vote this year. Instead, I will travel to Barletta and have a closer look at the competition before we may or may not present it again to you next year. Number 4 is a very clear candidate, the Stuttgart International Violin Competition, run by the Gadanini Stiftung in Stuttgart. I have visited their 2nd edition this year. They had a fabulous jury, huge application numbers, very decent price level, and their compliance with our statutes is excellent. So we strongly recommend the admission. Any comments from our German members? No. Next is the Daegu International Vocal Competition in South Korea. This one I have also visited. I have previously visited in the past, and their problem was, while they tried to be really international, they never succeeded because they could not get enough international candidates to South Korea. The level, the prices, the applications, it's all good. The website looks very professional. But only very recently, they have the number of international candidates has picked up. And they now hold their preliminaries in Italy, along with Daegu, South Korea. And they're trying really, really hard. And as you have heard before, being a competition, being a South Korean winner in one of our competitions in most cases means that they are exempt from the military service. So in South Korea, membership in the WFIMC is very, very significant. So we've talked a lot with them. We've told them what they have to do, and I believe that they have really tried very, very hard to improve, which is why the board also recommends to approve of this application. Number 6 is the Adelaide International Classical Guitar Competition in Adelaide, South Australia. It is a small competition, and the numbers you see for application is extremely low, but this was only during COVID. It has meanwhile gone up again, and it has been much, much higher before COVID. So this number is not a representative of their regular applications. It is small. The award level is not huge, but Slava Grigorian is a very well-known international artist, and both our other guitar competitions, Peter Luga and the ARD, have approved of this application, have said it would be nice to have one more guitar member. It does have no orchestral round in the finals. It does have an affiliation with the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra, but there is no orchestra final. However, our statutes say that under certain competitions and for certain categories, an orchestral final might not be necessary in order to become a member. So the board thinks that the prerequisites are met and recommends admission. We then have one additional category. I think Britta is here. The Franz Schubert and Modern Music competition would like to add a composition prize to their competition. This all looks very nice, and I don't think we need to elaborate on this at all. This is self-understood that we should admit this additional category. Then we have one case. I'm only mentioning this because it was on the materials that we sent out. The Girolamo Fantini International Trumpet Competition in Rome. They have been a member for several years, and it has always been very difficult for them to pay the membership fee. And what sometimes happens is a competition cannot pay, and they just dive and sort of disappear and not answer mails, not answer phone calls, and yeah, we don't know what to do with them. So we have suspended them, and we were going to propose them for exclusion at this General Assembly because there is no salvation in sight for this competition. However, I have spoken to the director of the competition, Giuliano Sommerhalde, who is also the principal trumpet at the Orchestre de la Suisse Romande in Geneva, which is an important connection for us, to say the least. And Giuliano said that for him it is incredibly difficult to find this money, not only for the WFIMC, but for the entire competition. And he's trying really, really hard, but he has not been able to find a sponsor to manage the competition in the first place. And he doesn't know when it will be possible for him to hold the next competition. So I told him, rather than letting us exclude this competition, he should officially resign. And then whenever he's holding a competition again, be it in 2 years or 3 years, he may apply again for membership, and we will discuss once again at that point how to deal with this competition. So there will be no vote of exclusion on the Fantini competition.
So now that's the point or the moment when where you can have questions, where you ask questions, Florian or the board, because the board was going through all these applications and made a recommendation. And because the voting is then afterwards online, as you know, so it's now the moment where you have, if you have concerns, to express them. If not, we would be really happy to see this all approved. Any questions? Any concerns? I don't see any hand showing up. So that's done. Number 8, wonderful. And now we have left 3 other points. Any other business is always at the end. Proposal and debate, number 6, statute changes and updates. We presented before the handbook because the handbook, the point 6 has a direct impact on the handbook. So, Florian.
I will just go through every single point, and then please, if you do not agree, if you have questions with these changes, please raise your hand and please tell us. I think the first 2 are very self-explanatory. Member competitions stand for fairness, integrity, and create equal opportunities for all aspiring musicians. I think we did not have this kind of statute until now, and I think we do need this, absolutely. The second one, member competitions are detached from political ideology or manifestations and protect young musicians from being instrumentalized by a political regime. Following the exclusion of the Tchaikovsky, we believe that this kind of statute is necessary to be included in our regulations. Yes, Arthur.
I've got a question. Should we as members understand that as a suggestion for organizers to exclude, Russian pianists, or on the contrary, should we be worried about that if we exclude Russian pianists, then we are understood as instrumentalizing musicians by a political, obviously not regime, but context, let's say. So how to understand this second point in terms of letting in or not letting in Russian pianists? Thank you.
I think it has nothing to do with Russian or not Russian. We are very clear in the first one, in the first sentence, is equal opportunities for all aspiring musicians. That means really everybody. And in the second sentence, we are very clear on a political ideology or manifestation. So if a pianist, if Russian, Jewish, Italian, German, doesn't matter, goes on stage and instrumentalizes our own competition stages, then there is no space for him or her. And that's meant with that sentence. But it's not from the scratch that we are already with that sentence excluding somebody because born somewhere and being a citizen of some of this or other nations. But yeah, I think it's quite clear, no? Because it's the crucial term is the political ideology or manifestations.
Yes, I understand that, but I try to understand also the agenda of some of the organizers also, especially the linked to the official governments, for instance, so as the official institutions that have to go along some of the political agendas of their countries. Just to go to the concrete, with the Chopin competition on period instruments, we didn't exclude directly Russian pianists because we had a condition. So if a Russian pianist wanted to come to the competition, they had to sign a kind of the agreement or a manifestation that they that they don't support the regime. Sorry, it's not very easy to word that. So I understand that in one way it goes along this second point, but it could be also understood as mixing art and politics. So I would just like to be certain that for the federation, this kind of mixing art and politics is allowable.
We had this discussion also with our Finnish members 2 years ago. I think they are still present. Maybe they would like to contribute on this or not. But again, this sentence gives you the room to let them sign a declaration where they, and as the Clyburn has also, where they confirm to not instrumentalize for any kind of ideology the stage. If you ask to use this sentence to make them a declaration against their government regime, how to call it, from where they are, that's not meant in this sentence, and that's a total other topic. But I don't think that we, with this sentence, are complicating this. There's somebody.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make clear that I understand it clearly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Artur.
I'm so sorry. I think I don't understand, because with that sentence, if you ask, you are making the artists sign a political statement. Maybe I didn't understand correctly.
Actually, what the Federation recommends, and this is actually based on the code of conduct of the Clyburn competition, we have our own code of conduct that we give to members if they ask us. It's a waiver, so to speak, that gives the competition the right to exclude someone if they behave in a way that goes completely against the spirit or the rules or everything of the competition.
Yes, I think the competition is correct, and I think that's a fine thing for the competition to have the artist sign. I agree with the competition completely. I think that's perfect. But what the gentleman just said before, for the I think is the Chopin competition, if they are asking the artists to sign a waiver, they're asking the artists to be political, and I think that's incorrect. I'm sorry, maybe I didn't understand him.
But that is not meant with this sentence. There's a specific case in a specific historical moment at that time in Poland, maybe in Finland, but we are not discussing this. Artur, I think you only illustrated a case that you had, and that gives us the opportunity to analyze also our sentence. I don't know if somebody of the committee, Rob, can...
I might explain. Maybe some of you recognize this sentence, because this sentence comes from the discussion we had in Bigos. We had a discussion on how to deal with nationalism. It was at the time, of course, of the troubles. And this was one of the sentences that we agreed on as a recommendation at the time. But we in the board felt, this not should only be a recommendation. This should be something that is a principle of our operations, and this should be in the statutes instead of in the recommendation. So this is not a new sentence for the majority here. So just to be clear.
I'm taking in account just a recent action. What is it if a young musician is instrumentalizing a competition for political reasons?
Was it a question, or?
Yes. What happens then if it's inverse?
That's individual for competitions. Everybody has maybe, hopefully, his own code of conduct. A very advanced one was defined by the Van Clyburn. Dick Clyburn, sorry, and also the Busoni has one. We, based on our code of conduct, we will exclude immediately that kind of participants. That's very easy. But again, has nothing to do with this changes of statutes, but as we were mentioning that cases, I can report also from our Busoni competition that there will be no question about. Because that is rightly, Rob linked this again to our really huge discussion, and I mentioned this in my own report, where I admitted that we are not so far as I was hoping in this denationalizing the music scene or the competition, but I will still insist on this. I strongly believe in this, and this is also a kind of a framework where we can go on with that kind of building up an awareness of how dangerous can be if we are entering again in this kind of nationalized understanding of being an artist. If there are no any other concerns or questions, it's very important, please really take the floor, ask the questions, because the objective is that we, on the end of this day, are able to approve or not approve these substantial changes. Because if the majority is really doubting on it, then maybe we have to take it off from the voting. So that's now the moment. So if there are no other questions, we go to point 3, Florian.
Article 3, this is an interesting point because our statutes until now have not actually dealt with one important matter, and that is the readmission of a member that was inactive or was excluded. There was no indication of what we are supposed to do if we want to readmit a member that was excluded. So just to give you a quick reminder of the situation, if a member has not produced or cannot produce a competition for 2 consecutive editions, if a member does not act in compliance with our statutes or against the spirit of the Federation's recommendations, or if membership dues remain unpaid after 3 months after the date of the invoice, we can, not we must, but we can put a member competition in inactive status. What does that mean? An inactive member is a member, it retains the membership, but is not permitted to vote, it is not permitted to serve as a board member, and is not eligible for any member benefits. If there is no solution being found for such an inactive member, then the board may recommend the member for exclusion at the next General Assembly. So,
yeah.
You can see the red sentence. The red sentence is the one we want to add. The black is what is already in our statutes. The board can place a member on inactive status, as I mentioned, if a competition has not held 2 editions. We don't usually do that. Now, because of COVID, if a competition hasn't been held even for 5-6 years, we have never really checked on that and said you cannot, you should be in inactive status. We've been very lenient in this point. The second point, a member is deemed by the board not to have acted in compliance or not in the spirit of our recommendations. This is the case, this is the rule that we applied in the case of the Tchaikovsky. The Tchaikovsky has acted against the Federation's recommendations for an international music competition. The third one, membership dues remaining unpaid. This is the most frequent case of competitions being placed in inactive status. And this has happened a lot in the past, and we're trying to limit this number because it is a big question mark, a bit uncertainty always for us in the budget if a competition doesn't pay. Now we would like to add three regulations in here. One is that this inactive status may be lifted by the board once an unpaid membership has been received. This means a competition has not paid for a year or 2. We've put them in inactive status. They have not appeared to the General Assembly. They have not been in contact at all. But suddenly they are back and says, we're having a new competition. We want to be back in the Federation. Then they must pay the missing membership fees, and we will then make them, place them in active status again. I think this is a very logical, very easy one. More complicated it gets if a member has been excluded and we have to readmit that competition. And I think there is different cases. If a competition has really acted against our rules, if, for example, there has been bribery, or if there has been a scandal, or the competition has gone bankrupt, and then after many years it wants to come back, then we have to decide on how to readmit that member. And until now, there was no regulation at all for this case. So basically, a member would only could only apply anew. We would again evaluate them. They would pay an application fee, and they would pay the regular fee, and they would be back in. But we would like to add 2 regulations to this one to make it easier to readmit a member that was once excluded, because there are cases where competitions were in trouble, could not pay their annual fees, their membership fees, and they would stay away for several years. Then suddenly they would get some injection of money from the government, they would have a new director, and they would want to come back. So for this case, I believe we cannot simply say, you fill out an application, you pay your application fee, you're back in, because they might not have paid for several years. So what we would like to propose to you for this case is, if this exclusion of that member in case has been done only for financial reasons, only because they have not paid their fees, we would propose that the board can readmit such a member if the member pays all the outstanding charges for the period of exclusion, up to 5 years annual membership. This means round about 12,000 euros if it's a maximum, plus the actual year that we're in. So it's 15,000 euros you would have to pay to be back if you hadn't been a member for 5 years. This is only an option if a competition wants to be back in. If a competition has actually resigned through an official resignation, then a readmission can only be granted through a regular application process. So we would then propose again to admit them, and the General Assembly would vote on the readmission, and the application fee would have to be charged. So these are the 3 sentences we would like to add to the statutes.
Everything clear?
I would like to make a comment. I'm gonna air here the same concerns I aired in the board about point G, because I'm not a fan of this new strategy, because it actually takes away the right and of the membership to vote on a readmittance of a former member. And I think, this is a right, this is one of the rights that we have, that we control who is part of this membership. Of course, it has been a former member, but there were always, as you say, there's so much things attached to this readmission. It might be a change of management, it might be a change of a sponsor, a change of a different subsidy that is given for certain reasons. We cannot oversee why they are readmitted. And I think there should always be an option for us as membership to go against a decision of the board in this case. So I'm perfectly fine of adding this, but I would really want a sentence which offers the opportunity to the membership to withdraw one of the decisions of the board, because we cannot have in the future, I trust the board currently, but you never know who will be there, and you don't want that the board makes decisions for financial reasons, and that's what's really written here.
To explain you, we had a really tough discussion in the board, analyzing all the pros and cons, and we had then a voting with a majority agreeing on this to bring it to the GA. It's not totally true what you are saying from my point of view, with all respect, Rob, because we cannot have the right to readmit because only of financial reasons, saying unpaid membership. This competition is for some months member, and then we are coming to the GA, and the GA decides again to exclude them. So that's totally impossible to act like this. And the proposal that we have now is to make the board, as in many, many other topics, and we had a lot of changes in the statutes over the last decades, maybe even the former presidents can confirm this, to make the board, since we have a Secretary General full-time, a more operative one. Not only a representative one, but an operative one. So what happens if we have a former member not able to join us for only financial reasons, coming back, organizing a competition, and they have to wait at least a year to present this application again, and then we open the box of Pandora, discussing all the other topics that we already digested once in the admission process. So the majority of the board was in favor of making our board more operative, the actual one, the future one, all the next boards. And I, as the actual president until tomorrow at least, I am very much in favor because gives to the board an acting power that we need. And it's not, nobody should be worried that this board is misusing this to admit members or readmit members, not at the level of the quality that we already had analyzed in the past. Mr. Romage.
Well, a very minor item. You have the alphabet on the Article 3, and I'm missing the D between C and E. Well, that's a side remark.
That can be easily solved. Thank you very much.
Please, yeah.
Yeah.
Now my real remark is, Florian, you have been mentioning the fact that membership dues remain unpaid after 3 months. That's something that's happened quite frequently, if I understand you correctly. If that is the case, this also looks to me rather rigid. You know, although it's not red, it's already black, and therefore it's not up for discussion. I just wonder whether such a regulation is really appropriate, because, you know, an invoice can be lost and it's not being paid, and all of a sudden I'm an inactive member. Now, there should be some other hurdle between you know, sending an invoice, especially in view of the fact that you are saying that's one of those problems that are arising most frequently.
Yes, Sikard, I understand, but if we leave this, we changed this regulation last year, actually, because a lot of invoices got lost somehow. And this rule, I mean, you all know that we won't call you and say, you haven't paid your membership fee, please pay tomorrow. We don't do that. And we have many competitions where we know they cannot pay up until a certain point. Some can only pay in the autumn, some even can only pay into the January of the following year. We tolerate all of this, but we want to have a rule to relate to, so that after 3 months of having no word whatsoever, to send them a reminder saying, hey, we sent you an invoice, please look when you're going to pay that.
Yeah, you are right, but the sentence starts with may place. So this gives only a possibility to the board in case we are judging this is a hopeless case, or we have to really put pressure, but it doesn't mean that automatically after 3 months there is happening something.
May I add why we did this? We did this because also of the cycle of our general assemblies and where we can decide to exclude somebody. And in the past we had 6 months of delayed fees, and that meant actually that we could only have somebody for exclusion 2 years after the fact that they didn't have paid their dues. And that's why we limited the number of months, so that after 9 months we could say, you still haven't paid, or after a year, but you're going to be up for exclusion at the next General Assembly. So that makes the process a little bit faster, but still, you know, it gives us the flexibility to be flexible, but it's also in the cases that we know that people will not pay, that we can take further actions.
Yeah, Didier.
Yes, going back to point G, what Rob raised, the question Rob raised, I think it's I understand perfectly well the fact that a member has been excluded by the General Assembly and then readmitted only by the board. It causes some kind of problem, I think. So when it's the General Assembly which has excluded somebody, I think it should be the General Assembly to re-accept this man. But I understand your point of view, I understand why, but it causes a kind of problem, in my opinion.
Can you be a bit more precise about the problems?
Yes, but it's only the General Assembly which excludes a member.
That's not a problem, but what kind of problems can be caused by readmitting solely by not paid membership fees?
I just think that the body which excludes should be the same body which readmit. General Assembly, General Assembly.
We are small enough to give to us our own rules, and this is a rule that makes us more operative, and I think we had a really majority to make this board serving the membership as a real operative board, and especially the Secretary General, if he gets after tomorrow a letter by an excluded member because not paying membership fee for 5 years, then he needs to wait to start the dialogue and the readmission process for another 12 months.
I understand. The next step will be that the board can exclude, which is more dangerous. I trust all of you.
Excluding, I think it's much more tough than readmitting for only that reason. Has nothing to do with content, nothing with identity, nothing with the values that they need to stay for still. So I'm totally in favor that the membership needs to exclude, because this is a really tough moment, tough decision, but readmitting only for that kind of not paid membership fee, I think it's reasonable in the philosophy of having an operative board. If the majority of this membership wants to have the board again a bit more representative than operative, then maybe we are in a different story again. There's another question.
Can I speak?
Yes, and then we have a second one.
Yeah, I have a small suggestion maybe for the for G, that is to perhaps add that if you readmit a member that has been excluded for financial reasons or for whatever reasons, because they haven't paid, that you could just add a clause maybe that they can be readmitted only if they are in compliance with these statutes, because I don't think that if they're in compliance that many members would be against them being included again, but I think that it is also maybe a bit premature to assume that it's only because they have a small financial problem that they cannot pay their bills. I think there's often more involved than just that.
I think that would not be a big problem to do.
Another one?
As Rob say, many things can happen in competition live, and you can only not get new managing director or new sponsor, but also lost what you have. And I would like to have a proposition to have a possibility to suspend membership by competition itself. And it's to avoid this not so small, how to say, fine for 5 years membership, But if you see that you cannot do competition or you not have finances, but you not to finish with that, and you need 3 years break or 2 or 5.
That would be very dangerous, because then we will have maybe some members really motivated to not pay for the competition and then paying again after 2 years. So having these 5 years is a seriousness of trying to fill in the debt with the federation. And that's the only case where we are asking you to vote in favor of this possibility that the board readmits at any moment during the year. But we don't want to open a possibility that the competition can temporarily stepping down, not paying the membership fee, and then being active again after paying, continuing paying. And therefore the 5 membership fee units. Any other question on this? Maybe Florian, yeah? So maybe Florian can change it and he can read it, the suggestion. Thank you very much from the floor. If this improves the sentence on G. And we will change the alphabetical order, Mr. Romic. Okay. So if everybody sees this as an improvement, we can leave it like this, or are there other concerns, or? Yeah, Rob is...
Well, no, I just want to make sure, because I think this is important for us. And I've heard a couple of people who were also in favor of what I said, but I don't want to push things, but I want to make sure that we don't proceed and that the majority of the whole agrees with me. I don't know if that's the case, but if the case is that they agree with me, that we have a negative vote on the whole statute change. So I think it's for us, it's important now to know how we feel about this, because if we proceed, and this is the point that everybody says we will not have the statute changes, then the next hour of discussing the other statute things will be lost.
May I pose a small question as a reaction to that? I'm wondering, Rob, do you have a suggestion for how to change this clause into something that makes it easier for the board to, or it takes away the problem of people needing to wait for readmittance for like 2 years, and that makes it possible for us to vote for it? Or do you have another suggestion that might help fix this problem?
Well, the only suggestion I had was that there should be a fail-safe for the membership to withdraw a decision like this. I want to add one point, and I don't want to talk about too much, but I think, you know, what has been the main argument for this article is the timeline, and that the board wants to act fast. And I ask myself the question, how important is it really to have a decision within a year? If a new member wants to join, he or she also needs to wait a year. So what is the real issue here of having to rush through a decision like this?
We are loyal with our members and also with our former members. And if this former member had financial problems, and we are talking only about that aspect, then I think we should help this member to enter as soon as possible, given what we have now changed also, provided the member still complies with the federation statutes. But why should we be as a police and being so strict in not helping if this member after 5 years finally got all the financial means and can re-enter our field? We should be only happy. And I don't have this kind of strictness that it's a tower of ivory, that it's really not allowed to enter to even a former member. Ariel, do you have a comment which helps us in this?
maybe we could say that such a decision will be brought to the General Assembly, next General Assembly, who can decide not to accept it. And then we'll have to return the money or something like that.
No, that's that was a proposal. But
no, you can readmit, but the next General Assembly you have to reassure that there is no objection.
I don't see. So if somebody pays 15,000 euros being readmitted using the reputation of the federation, and then the General Assembly says no, better not. No, okay, then we pay back in case, so there's no fraud. But what does it do with this member?
No, but also, I have always agreed with you, Ariel, but this time I disagree. And the reason is, at that point in time, you will have to dismiss the whole board. And that's not acceptable, I think. Because if the board decides something, and the General Assembly thereafter says, the decision of the board is, we disagree, the credibility of the board is being...
You're absolutely right. I suggested it as a solution to those who have a problem, but I really do not really understand what's the problem. I think that we can delegate these rights to the board. We can even give the board more rights. Not everything must be decided by the General Assembly.
The board is usually responsible. We took this decision also in a responsible way. We had an open discussion. Rob rightly brings his own view in this membership. We had a majority to propose this to you as an improvement of our acting power. And I only can invite you, we are only talking about a financial aspect of the membership fee, of the membership, and we should be a bit more generous and not acting and behaving ourselves as a police. Jacques.
Briefly, because we're talking about giving a little bit more power to the board. When we changed the bylaws, 17, I think, we decided, because of new Secretary General coming in, that the Secretary General also is responsible in some ways to, for instance, evaluate the candidacy of new members. Then Florian will go somewhere, it will come to the board, will say, I suggest that this new competition enter the federation. We go and we come to the General Assembly, and pretty much the General Assembly follows what the board has decided. On the finance side, the board controls pretty much everything on the finance, and the General Assembly have faith in the board. We ask for this one, it's a little bit more power for the board. And actually, if it's not working well, you have more problems coming your way because the board is not doing, there's a lot of more power that's way more dangerous than this one. Then I'm thinking, okay, I understand Rob and Didier also saying, okay, we are taking some power from the General Assembly, but the board actually now has still a strong hold on what we're doing. And if you are looking at what's happening at any General Assembly, I'm not sure that you're looking at the financials very with deep look at it like we do. I'm not sure you're looking at all the applications like we do. Then you give already this power to the board, and suddenly this, it's a little bit more, but I don't think it's a big thing, personally.
Glenn, we have another statement.
I just also like to say one other thought that really went into the consideration of this is the fact that the delay of the time, you must remember that not every competition occurs every year. So if a competition only occurs once every 3 years, your delayed decision by waiting for a General Assembly could affect that competition as much as 4 years before they can actually, until their next competition, they can take advantage of becoming a member. So I think that really weighed heavy too in the timetable of things. If every competition was every year, we could wait a little bit, but that's not the case.
It's a very important and good point that we had already in the board. So if there is no any need anymore on going deeper to this topic, if you would like to have another discussion, but as we said, and that's very important, Rob, you mentioned, so we are trying to approve as much as possible this as one body. So if a majority is against this, then please tell us now this. If not, we are going ahead. Okay? Then thank you very much. So Article 4/2I.
In order to qualify for admission as a member of the Federation, a member competition must meet the following requirements. Excuse no participant from an early round of a competition. This is in addition to the statutes. It is meant as a rule that says you cannot invite somebody who, for example, won another competition and make him go straight to the semifinals, for example, and not play the first round. You can admit somebody, this is something different, you can admit somebody who's won another competition, but you cannot make him not participate in a round of a competition.
Questions about this? Yeah, Didier?
If I read correctly, what is written just up the screen, it's written remove from the statutes and make recommendation. So exactly the contrary what you said. It was in the statute and it's not anymore in the statute. Or am I wrong?
Yes, that's right. Sorry, I lost that one.
But this will then disappear after this whole process.
No, I understand. So
right.
we had this rule in the statute, and it's not anymore in the statute, but it's a recommendation.
Yes, we had this because of this discussion we had in the morning that people would like to admit winners of other competitions to their competition, and then there is a confusion about a preliminary round. Is that actually an early round of the competition or is it not? Which it makes it then difficult if we keep it as a statute to enforce that rule. Because if the statute is valid, then you could not accept a winner of a different competition, a winner of a different WFIMC competition in your competition without passing a preliminary round.
Yes.
Yes, so we're making it a recommendation, and with the recommendation, you can actually admit winners of a different WFIMC competition into your own competition.
Without passing the first round.
This is left open, but it's intended to be the preliminary round, yeah. But then there is pre-selection, preliminary, some people say this is already the first round, and there it gets really cloudy, so that's why the recommendation is more easy to use in this case.
Just to point out, this is the wording that was in the statute. This is not the wording that we, also because the word early causes so much trouble. So that's why, you want to get it out and have it as a recommendation and be more precise, as you will see later.
Any other questions on this? Then we go to Article 4/2LH. Change wording. It's a minor change.
This is a minor change. We only want to change jury rules to competition rules, because rules should be part of the entire competition, should not be limited only to the jury.
Then we are on Article 4. No, anybody has any problem with this minor change? Ariel? Judge competitions?
Judge competitions according to competition rules. Yeah. But
yeah?
The meaning is the same. Competitions and competitors, it would mean the same.
Okay. So that's now kind of substantial. A lot of recommendations are here proposed to be implemented in the statutes, 4.2.
We'll make sure that all jury members are present for all performances during a certain phase or round of the competition. You remember one Russian competition having Yo-Yo Ma only for 1 day of the competition, some extreme examples of that where juries only being flown in for 1 round or for part of 1 round. And with this rule, we want to make sure that it should be the same jury, ideally for the whole competition. But there are some competitions like, for example, Queen Elizabeth, that have changing juries. They have certain, how should I say, they have their rounds within 1 week, and then the next week is a different round. So they have a jury for 1 round, but during this round, the jury cannot change. Then in the second round or in the final, the jury may change, but during that round, the jury should stay the same and should not be substituted or changed. Yes.
Florian, help me understand this better, because we were talking about crisis management yesterday. I had the case where a jury member fell ill from food poisoning for 1 afternoon. And he was not voting then, of course, but we had our video recordings of the people who played. So I see a potential shitstorm for me as an artistic director when then someone writes about a jury member not being present, since it is now a statute that they need to be present. How would it be if we would make it clearer by saying we'll make sure that all jury members listen to all performances during a certain phase? Because present means you have to be actually present. And when you are sick, when you're ill, what do I do to avert a crisis?
You can be present online, though.
But does anyone understand this as online also being present?
No, it's a good proposal, but maybe we should even add exceptionally listening, because we had already a huge discussion during the pandemic. What does it mean, judging somebody online or in the hall? And I think we have a lot of members that are totally sure that it's a huge difference. So maybe with exceptionally listening, we open this door for these very specific cases. Didier? You agree with this exceptionally or with the listening only? Okay. Are there other proposals to this so we can change this live? Present or exceptionally listening? Present for all performances or listening to? No? Yeah. There's another proposal.
I think there could be another pandemic, and I think listening online is okay. I don't know. Does anybody disagree? Does everybody disagree?
With this exceptionally, we already linked this to a pandemic, because I hope still that the pandemic is something exceptional. So we have it already there. But we respect also that our priority goes to listen to them in the hall. Yeah.
There's a problem with the wording, Didier? No?
No, but to be clear, that's not what is said here. It's about that you have to listen to the whole round. So even if you want to do in the pandemic times a round online, it still applies that you have the same people doing the whole round. That's what it's about. It's that you give every candidate to the same judges.
Okay. Next one is about jury members who are relatives or teachers of a competitors that should be excluded from the voting process and deliberation, if any, for that given candidate. The wording is just taken from our recommendations. We believe it should be part of the statutes. Yes, Anne.
What happens, sorry, I'm just going to be provocative. What happens to a member that doesn't comply with one of these? In our case, our voting process does not allow favoritism for a teacher. and we have had on occasion teachers because it's a voting, it's not a point allocation. So what happens if because we believe in our voting systems and our judges are praising our voting systems, if we don't meet this new statute? We're compliant as a recommendation, but we're not keen to change our entire voting process to meet this new statute and wonder what will happen to us.
Can you explain again? I had yeah, please give us back the mic.
The Michael Hill voting process does not allocate points. So it's not possible in our process, which has been reviewed by a number of statisticians, to weigh a vote in favor of somebody, because in order to progress a candidate or to list a prize, it's simply a majority vote from the panel. So we have 7 judges, so a majority, at least 4 out of 7 judges, need to be in agreement that candidate X is the first choice. So because of this, we have felt comfortable allowing a teacher to serve on the panel because it's only one vote. They don't confer, they're not allowed to talk to one another. We even separate them in different hotels so that they're discouraged from talking to one another. So it's a different scheme for voting, and it would unravel our entire process and the way that we've built everything by imposing this, because we manage it very carefully to a point where a teacher cannot influence the outcome.
Has any other member a comment on this? Ariel and... Okay, so he's confirming this. And Ariel, what is your comment on this? Can we give a microphone on to Ariel? Ariel.
If the teacher is allowed to vote, I don't see the difference between that to other methods where you give grades. So at least in our competition, if in the jury there is a teacher or someone, he cannot vote as long as this guy is in the competition. If he is out, then for the next stages he can vote. He can sit with the jury. You do not have to disclose to the public that he is his pupil, but within the jury he doesn't vote as long as his student is playing in the competition.
I think this is quite a large topic, and maybe I should take this offline because this could be quite thorny, but this is not a, your solution simply wouldn't work for the asset. It would undo our entire voting process. So I will speak privately about this.
Okay,
this is a big issue for us.
I must explain because Mr. Omesh just reminded me the exact rule that we have. He can vote, but he cannot vote for his pupil, for his student. And then we weigh it. We weigh the voting as compared to the number of jurors who can vote for this competitor. That's the rule. But at the finals, if the pupil is at the finals, he cannot vote at all. Because there we are not weighing. It's just who is the first prize, who is the second prize, and it's a majority as you described. So in this case, he cannot vote, at least in our competition.
I think the Michael Hill might be a special case that could be looked at differently, but I think this rule is really important for us, also for the perception, for people reading or commenting on our competitions. There is so many times you get an article where they say, okay, this is that jury member's student, or even it also says a relative. So you could say a mother is judging on her son or daughter, and this cannot be. I think this is a very clear thing that we need in the federation. That's why we had it, and I think it has to be a statute. It cannot be a recommendation. It's not something we take lightly.
Right. Well, I agree, and I would like to add something. I'm not going to mention it, but there's a major competition where they did not eliminate the highest and the lowest score. We are not allowing the professor or the teacher to vote at his own student. And we also dismiss the highest and the lowest vote because of all kinds of possible manipulations. And we just have a case, a very famous competition, where both rules were not applied, and the results apparently of those who were in the jury told me they were embarrassing. So we've got to make sure that the integrity of the voting process is applying these kind of rules. Not vote on your own student, and please, argument, highest and lowest, because there are a lot of strange motives in giving grades.
Yeah, Jacques, we have Jacques.
Briefly, because this can take a long time. The question is, if we have a conflict of interest for a teacher, and I know it because he signed a form for us, but he as a student, or she as a student in the competition, he votes. He votes, he says yes or no, or whatever votes. Once it's done, I take the average of all the votes and I give the average to his mark. Therefore, because if you tell him that he cannot vote, he has to vote for someone else. In our case, we need a precise number of candidates. If you vote for someone else and he thought that his student was good, he's penalizing his student by favoring another candidate. Then when he votes, he gave his vote to his student. When we get the thing, the numbers, we took his vote out and we give the average of the other members. Therefore, he's not penalizing his students, but he's not also favoring another one. But that's a...
Yeah, now, of course, it's tricky to separate this from a discussion about voting systems, no? And being transparent and fair and avoiding any kind of critics of real conflict of interest. And I think that not many competitions can really allow that kind of separation between jury members and all this kind of measures that you are able to guarantee. And if you are fine with it, that we keep it in and going on, or are there other comments on this? No, there is another comment.
Can I just say something very quickly? Two really small things.
Fiona?
Thank you. The definition of what is a teacher, I think it's quite useful to say, is it someone who's had more than a masterclass, 3 lessons? You know, where does a teacher be a teacher rather than somebody who has got a connection, has played a masterclass, got consultation lessons, that kind of thing? Yeah. It's quite useful to sort of say.
Very important remark.
And another thing, like Jacques, we've got the same thing for our jury contract. They have to declare if they're a teacher or have a relationship or a relation, if they're a relation, or have had a relationship with one of our competitors. Let's not be naive and think that this doesn't happen. It does happen that personal relationships can get in. So it's not just about relations and teachers, it's also personal relationships.
There are members, they are defining a period, for example, that you cannot have lessons with a teacher over the last 2 years or only one masterclass or something like this. That's up to the single member. Maybe we should still leave this kind of freedom of definition to the members. But we have Didier, and then, no, first there, I cannot see who is big, it's this light.
It's Emily, I'm from an organ competition. I think we also have to think about disciplines, because the organ world is very, very tiny. And to find judges that may not be teachers may be hard. It may be difficult if multiple people on your jury have students that are in the competition. So we have to think about smaller disciplines where the worlds are very, very small. What do you do if, you know, there's 3 people on your jury that have students in the final round? What do you do?
No voting.
Yeah.
Didier.
Yeah, it was basically the same. So I think I understand the rule and I agree with it, but it's not easy to comply with that in any case. And depending the disciplines you have with the wind instruments, for instance, it's very often that you have teachers because they are the best ones and not so many. And there are systems like in Michael Hill that provide security with teachers. I think in my competition it's the case as well. But if we keep this kind of very strict statutes, it causes problems to some members. So being a recommendation was very clear. I would agree it should be a statute because I understand the aim of publicly saying that we don't want teachers to vote for the students, but maybe the wording should be a bit more wide. I don't know, with some exceptions, with some discussions. I don't know, but something a bit more comprehensive.
Yeah, so then we have Rob. I don't know if we should really try to change the wording and to, which is then reflecting on all these individual cases. We have still the possibility in this process of an open discussion to take a decision to leave this as a recommendation and to take it out. Because this is, for the moment, the most articulate discussion that we had until now about these statute changes. But Rob.
Yes, that would be my suggestion, perhaps to take out the teacher part and leave the relative part for now and put the teacher still as a recommendation and get back to that in the next General Assembly and have a longer discussion about this, how we can deal with this on a statute level. But I think there is I heard no comments against having it about relatives, because I think that is such a clear position.
How about if we said we'll amend the voting process or exclude any jury member who is a relative or teacher? Then you would have both things. I'm going to write it.
Can you explain again?
How about using the phrasing is in any way related to a competitor?
Then it's even more than a relative or a teacher.
What if you changed it to something like competitions will make it clear in their rules how they deal with candidates who are a relative or a student of one of the competitors?
I think it makes it too complicated. I think it's better, because we're running out of time, to leave it a recommendation for now. We will discuss it, rediscuss it, and bring it back again next year and find a more inclusive rule. So I will
then keep it out.
Keep it out entirely.
Then we have the next one. We'll keep any decision of the jury to be final.
This is a basic legal rule. A decision is final. It cannot be changed later on.
No questions about this? We can go on.
Competition may include live, online, or pre-recorded phases, but not for the final rounds. It's pretty self-explanatory. Exceptions may be made in cases where governmental or health restrictions apply. This means that during COVID, if there's another pandemic, you can have an online competition. Otherwise, you should have at least one live round for your final.
Do we agree on this? Okay, then we can go ahead.
Competition acknowledges that an audience is an essential part of live music performances, except for the preliminary stage, which in some instances may be considered a pre-selection. All stages of a performance shall be open to the public. This was a recommendation previously, and we would like to make it a statute.
Any concern about? No, wonderful. Let's go on.
Irrespective of the official languages of the WFIMC, member competitions will publish their application materials in English, in addition to any other languages chosen by the competition. This was a recommendation as well.
I think we don't have any more members not applying to this. So,
yeah, we had rules previously that competitions, even in Asia, would have to have French and English versions of their application materials.
Nobody's against. Wonderful. Next one.
Then we should make sure that each application is reviewed by at least 2 judges. I think this is also a very simple thing. Yes.
May I make a suggestion? How would it be to add one word here? Because when we have about 400 applications, for example, and we ask for 2 videos and 1 video is missing, even though we ask for sending in the second video, this technically is an application, but my 2 jury members do not need to look at that 1 video when it's not correct or accepted. So how would it be if it is an each correct application or each accepted application? Because otherwise, this is just a technicality, but I hope you get my point.
Yes.
But here is it more that at least 2 judges. That's the point. That it should not be judged by 1.
He means if the application is not complete, it should still be seen by 2 judges.
When it's incomplete, yeah, but it's still technically an application, no? Or
yeah, but this is not about the correctness of an application. This is about 2 jury members judging at least an application.
I know. Yeah. Anyway.
No, I think you're missing the point here. I think what he's saying is you shouldn't be asking jury members to take the time to look at ineligible applications, which is what he has if it's missing content. So only looking at eligible applications for jury members would make sense to me. And I think that, yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Joe?
Yeah, done.
Okay.
Should not allow any applicant to bypass one or multiple phases of the competition. We have this, but I don't think this is the case anymore in any competition, that you can jump from the first round straight to the finals.
Cut from
statutes and make recommended, yes.
Okay. No questions about it? Next one.
Shall present a final round with orchestra unless the competition's discipline makes this requirement unsuitable. Also cut from statutes and make recommendation. This refers to, for example, the applications that we had today, a guitar competition in Australia that does not have a final round with orchestra, that makes that rule a little bit more lenient by making it a recommendation. So it's easier for smaller competitions to apply for membership if they don't have an orchestral round.
And Florian, if I may add, we also included this because we want to create room for different kind of competitions with a clear vision about a certain way of organizing a competition. We felt also that it might be limiting if we always require a finals with orchestra. Maybe if you're just looking for I can see a solo piano competition at a really high level where you really aim for just recitals or these kind of things. So that's why we wanted to cut this from the statutes.
No concern.
All main prizes to be awarded by the competition shall be published prior to the competition. This was previously a recommendation.
Questions about it? I think also on this, the entire membership is already acting like this. Next one.
All prizes shall be awarded unless the jury is allowed the discretion to withhold naming any prize, in which case that option shall be clearly stated in the application brochure of the competition. We have many competitions that say all the first prize will be given, must be given, and then there's others where this is unclear. So it would be good for the competitor to know that this option exists.
Sorry, me again. I mean, we are talking about competition rules anyway. Why do we not make this, instead of application brochure of the competition, just competition rules? Because, for example, the Beethoven competition doesn't have an application brochure. We are now online with all our competition rules. And then, of course, we have the program book, but then it's too late already.
Stated in the rules of the competition.
And then the last one on point 4/2.
Being an active member of the Federation entails taking part in the annual voting for the business agenda of the General Assembly. We're not going to enforce this, but I have to say it was really hard to get many of you to register for this vote. And we want to put this somewhere that it's really the duty of the member to vote. If we don't have the membership voting, then we are not a democratic organization. Then we cannot make decisions. We cannot change.
Okay, I think we are done with the 4.2. Now we are somehow going back to what we have discussed before, junior and youth competitions, and how to implement this in the statutes.
I think the first paragraph I've already explained before. Maybe we can jump straight to the single points. So if we receive a application, we will review it. First, I will review it, then, or the Secretary General will review it, then the board, and the board will make a recommendation to the General Assembly, taking into account the different prerequisites. As there are, junior competitions must clearly be international. They should not be limited to one country. Rules and regulations must be both in English and in the local language. That's also, I think, very self-explanatory. More than 50% of the participants must be from a different country. This is important because in countries where there is a lot of foreigners, you might have, it will be more or less a national competition. The majority of the jury must be resident in a country other than the host country. This is a little bit lighter than our jury rules for regular competitions. Then what we had before, junior competitions may set their own age limits. Different age groups with different requirements may be chosen. A competition or age category which includes participants with the age of more than 18 will not be considered a junior member. Juries should have a minimum of 5 members. This is also a little bit lighter than for the full member competitions. Exceptions may be made taking into account the structure, requirements, and results of a member candidate. Selection rounds must have a minimum of 2 jury members. This means the preliminary round. Junior instrument competitions must have at least 1 live round preceded by a pre-selection. This is the minimum. Teachers of any candidate may not vote on that given candidate. I think that is for a junior competition even more important than for an adult competition. And that will automatically exclude a lot of potential applications. Final rounds without orchestra may be considered. Yes. Then the membership fees. Annual fee, like a full member competition, shall be 2,850 Swiss francs. And then again, the regulation that we have now, if you have multiple competitions in your organization, you can become, you can make your competition a separate, you can get a separate entry, or you can make it part of your entry in the yearbook or on the website. Now, I think we've been speaking about that we have separate categories. So let's give you one example. We have one competition, the Horowitz competition, for example, which has both an adult category and a junior category. In a year where there is the adult category happening, we would place the Horowitz competition in the main, among the main members. And if the Horowitz competition decides to promote their junior competition as well, in that year where they have a junior competition, it will be placed in the junior category. that's pretty much it.
So, any concern about this? Questions? We already discussed this before. We had the impression that maybe the majority is in favor of this kind of welcoming youth competitions also as members. To explain it again, so now we are trying, or we are hoping that we can see this approved as a whole picture. And it would be a pity that if only one point brings us then to not approve the entire picture. And we were asking you to put in your questions, to ask, to make your comments. So hopefully we have this, we can leave this stage with the impression that you will vote. Maybe you should explain again. Everybody needs to be registered. Maybe we are still missing somebody to register. And maybe you should also explain us how many hours or time do we have to vote on this. And then I think we are already on the presentation of the WFMC handbook, but please explain again. Yeah?
I can have a word, maybe,
yes,
because I'm not doing youth competition, so just about the wording here. Because above on the other side, can you scroll it a little bit further, a little bit more? A little bit. Oh, here. Junior instrument competitions. I just have had a thought that there are no vocal competitions, junior competitions, just about the wording. I don't know if you want to exclude the vocal competitions or not. And it's also...
we can take it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's at the very, very beginning of the site also.
Didier?
Yes.
On
There's a second sentence, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's now more precise. Okay.
Just a quick word, we're almost at 5:30, but we would like to give this to you and maybe you can have a look later on, and this may also be part of your decision making. Rob Hilbrink has worked really, really hard last summer to put together this handbook. We have then in the committee discussed all the single points and have edited and have put it again anew, and we've printed it out for you today. We wanted to have one piece of regulations for the federation, not always the separate statutes and recommendations. We wanted to have one thing that we can look at and we can show to people that give all our advice and all our thinking about our competitions. And so in this WFIMC handbook, which Sarah will now give to you, we have compiled all the recommendations and statutes and marked them as such, but put them into different categories so that you can easily read all the rules, all the advice that we have for member competitions. And we believe make the whole picture a little bit clearer. And we will, of course, amend what we just discussed and give you a new exemplary, but I think it's good for you if you can just take this home and have a look and see what you think, that we have really one booklet that contains all our rules. And our goal is to put this also in our yearbook from next year so that we all know where we have our rules and that everyone from outside can also openly see these rules and regulations and can find them easily. So I would like to say a big thank you again to Rob for putting this together, and a big thank you to the committee who has worked through many meetings to go through all these rules and to rewrite and put it together again. And I'm really happy that we have it, and I hope you will also like it the same way and will use it in the future.
So Florian, please explain again. Voting, how many hours do we have? And
many of you have already voted. I will check again now. You have until past midnight tonight to cast your vote, and I will announce the results tomorrow in the morning.
If somebody is missing their email, they can ask Sarah or Jin or...
We've already been talking to many people, yes, but you can talk to us.
Okay. So we have point 9, any other business? We are already all together kind of tired. So we are continuing tomorrow morning with the business agenda, which means election for the board and the presidency, presentation of the candidates. Not everybody is here because of the reasons that I already explained, partly in the report. But there will be the possibility also, I think, to ask questions to the candidates, and then we are going for the second round of a vote. Thank you very much for the attention, for your patience. It was wonderful with you. Thank you.
Thank you. (8:45 at the hotel, or make your way yourself. It's a 25-minute walk.